of you are strangers, so thanks a lot for taking the time out. Am I audible? Is it fine and clear? Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to give you a little brief about Vishawatch, we started out a few years ago. We started out as a very, very humble platform, more like an Insta handle, probably driven by the passion. And it was started by Vishesh Sahani, who is one of the collectors. He's really passionate about watches. It's his brainchild. And slowly and over the period of few years, we've evolved into a more serious platform in terms of connecting with people, the kind of content we do. We have our presence on Insta, we have a web page, we are present on Facebook and YouTube. And basically the whole gist is to create content which appeals to the watch community, watch enthusiasts, collectors, and increasingly we're realizing the only way to make it appealing and interesting to people is to collaborate, to partner. So the vision is it's a platform for collectors and brands and people to meet. We have our virtual presence. We do offline events like on-ground real experiences. We've had partner brands like Panerai. We've done a host of experiential evenings with them. We've worked, Vishawatch's parent company is White Media Marketing. It's an experiential marketing company, again, founded by Vishesh Sahani, who's here with us today. And we have a host of luxury brands and partners in the whole Pernod Ricard portfolio, IWC, Hublot, Panerai. We've worked with a lot of brands. So yes, going ahead, the idea is to be more out there and connect as much as we can with people like you, the collectors. This is our first virtual get together and meeting. So thank you so much for joining in. Thank you, Puneet. Over to you.
Right. Thank you, Vijaya. We're excited to have you here. And now I'll just introduce in short the guests which are going to be speaking, the experts per se. So we have Vishesh with us, who Vijaya just mentioned, the founder of Vishawatch. So Vishesh, apart from being the founder of Vishawatch and White Media Marketing, Eka Weddings, he's bitten by the entrepreneur bug and is an avid watch collector. He looks into everything luxury just about, which surpasses his radar for all things bizarre. He's keenly observant, guys, so take care. So the other one, along with Vishesh, is going to be our very own Vritti. She's a part of Bombay Watch Enthusiasts. Although she's not currently living in Bombay, she's from Ahmedabad. She's a designer who's the only designer from India who's worked with JLC for over 3 years. She's been part of the Richmond Group's Creative Academy and also has worked on projects with Vacheron, IWC, Cartier, etc. She, with JLC, her extensive experience with JLC includes her working firsthand in the design team. And so a lot of JLC watches which we are wearing right now, maybe Vritti would have designed it for us. So it's very interesting. And plus, again, a very noteworthy thing is that none of the JLC team members ever have been from India. So again, another good thing, like a proud moment for us that we have someone who's an outlier in that sense, and she's worked with JLC in Switzerland. And Vishesh and Vritti are going to be helping us understand design in horology better. Cool. So Vishesh and Vritti, the floor is yours. We all are waiting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Puneet.
Introduction. So honestly, guys, hi everyone. Good to meet all the members of Bombay Watch Enthusiasts and few of other friends as well who are here. So design, honestly, for me, I think it's a very personal and a subjective take also that usually people have. Like for me, when I look at a watch and a design, so for me, it's how comfortable the watch sits on the wrist. So that's the first thing, other than the visual appeal, and that's the thing I think about. So I think it's a really interesting take that we like to share today with all of you. So thankfully we have an expert with us today who's going to at least tell us what are the basics of watch design and what really goes into a watch design. So Ritik. Yeah,
so I'll be taking over, guys. Hi, everybody. I hope you guys are all safe. I'm sure you are, you attending this session. Basics of watch design. I mean, design per se is quite a wide topic, And to talk about watches, we can say that it's both restrictive, because it's a small design element, right? It's a small object. So sometimes when we look at watches, we are not just looking at, say, the dial. We are looking at smaller elements too. We are looking at the number track. We are looking at the bezel. We are looking at the lugs. We are looking at the case. We are looking at the bracelets as well. So it may look restrictive, but it consists of a lot of different elements that are minutely designed. Each part of the watch is, given, I'd like to say years, but sometimes not years, but it's a long and extensive process to design the smallest of the parts while designing a watch. Guys, am I audible? I think, Vishesh, are you breaking up?
No, audible.
Yeah, you're audible.
Yes.
So, Riti, also tell us, basis your experience at GLC. So when all these big brands and the manufacturers, when they go into designing a watch, what is the process do they follow? Is it design first, movement first, or is it amalgamation of both? Or how does the whole process happens when they start thinking about making a watch?
Usually it's an amalgamation of both. But well, at Jager, I can talk about my experience from Jager. There's a technical team who's working on the movements, and there's the design team who's working on the design. Now the technical team comes up with the movement, and we have to keep the movement in our minds while designing, say, the face, the crown. In the design industry per se, over the years, it has not really happened that you see a lot of innovation coming in the case. It used to happen earlier, like the earlier watches, like, the Royal Oak, or certain maisons, especially like Cartier, does a lot of changes with their cases. But most of the times, the design team is working on minute details rather than the bigger ones. But
Design
it
really get changed gradually. It's usually a long process, or takes so one iconic design then kind of stays with a.
Yes. So basically, most of these brands, they keep going back into their archives, and they keep evolving it, making it better, is what I can say.
Okay. So in fact, since we're talking about design in GLC, we also have Devesh Agarwal with us, who looks after the brand in India. So Devesh, I'm not talking on the brand point of view, but just wanted to when you say that since you are from the watch industry, as a consumer, how important do you think the design plays a role when the consumer is choosing this watch?
Hi, Vishesh. Yeah, design is obviously very important. It's what pulls or attracts the client towards a particular watch, right? Not everybody is aware of what is going on inside the watch. Not everybody is savvy enough to understand the calibers. So design is the first thing that you notice. And as with everything else, design plays a very key part. And at Jaeger, I mean, Priti knows much more than me, but at Jaeger, we've had our own iconic designs, like the Reverso or the Master line, the ultra thin collections, which sit very nicely on the wrist. So I can second what she said about the design team being very active at Jaeger, at our maison. And they work very closely with the technical team, because the technical team is given targets by the management to achieve newer breakthroughs and to get better and better. And then the design team has to sort of catch up with that and make sure that the entire layout of the caliber can be incorporated with a very attractive either case or a transparent case back, etc. So yeah, design has to complement. It's a very functional thing.
So you would say, as much as the movement, the design plays a equally important role.
Yeah, for sure.
Riti, you would like to share some of your key designs or something that you were talking about?
I would, but I would like to share some of my works. I've already shared it with a few of you guys before, but I'll be happy to share that. But before that, I'd be wanting to share a few lesser known facts about Jaeger, and maybe Devesh can add on it. I think they'll be quite interesting. So I think most of you guys might know, or you don't. Jaeger LeCoultre was the only maison to invent the millionometer. Any ideas on about that? It allows you to measure to the thousandth of the millimeter. So it gives you precision, and the precision that you see today in most of Jaeger watches comes from centuries ago. So this invention was done in sometimes in the 1800s, late 1800s. Then they were also the first one to use sapphire glass, to replace glass with sapphire glass. So I think that was done in 1929, if I am right. Yeah, so they were the first ones to use sapphire glass. Also, they were also the first ones to come up with the crown, the push button crown actually. Jaeger was the first one to come up with that. And another interesting fact about Jaeger is, it's one of my personal favorites. They were for a very long time doing dashboard equipment for automobile and also aviation. They were doing the tachymeters and speedometers for US Air Force, for French Air Force, for the German Air Force during World War I. And most of the luxury cars then in the 1920s, 30s were using like Aston Martin or the Renault. The French car makers were using all of Jaeger's dashboard equipment as well. And this is quite an insider news. Jaeger also produces its own honey. This is just probably only for the employees, but yeah, they have some excellent honey that they make. So if you are probably lucky to visit the Jaeger manufacturer, maybe you might be able to taste the honey that Jaeger makes.
It's also given out to guests who visit the manufacturer.
Yes.
And a couple of other facts which are on the chat. I'm just going through the chat. So Nakul is saying that is it the Geneva stamp, the accuracy stamp which they have? So is it the same as the Geneva stamp, or is it different? Because we know about the Geneva stamp in watches, right? Certain watches have those.
I think it's the same.
Okay. And also, Karishma made a point that Jaeger had the smallest caliber that weighed about a gram. Oh, wow. That is
the one, I think.
Yeah, that is something interesting.
Sorry, just to clarify, our stamp is actually an internal certification. It's not the same as Geneva stamp.
Oh, okay.
We call it the 1,000-hour control test, which you get nowadays.
Okay. I'm the creative person, Devesh, so I think you know more on that.
Yeah, but we're focusing on design today, so you're the boss today.
So from India's perspective, Vishesh, what do you think, and Devesh, even you, like from an Indian consumer perspective, when it comes to Jaeger, do people come to talk about it as in terms of the design, or it's still very brand level, or they talk about the design or the technicalities? So how is it going from a design angle? Like, do we pay a lot of focus on a majority level to the design of a particular watch, or it is more superficial per se?
Should I take that, or
Anyone?
Okay. So from the brand point of view, I think then so India, honestly, I think it's a very mixed market. So we are still an evolving market, I would say. Some of these JLC, Panerai, Hublot, some of these brands who actually are known for the certain design capabilities, and they're different kind of collectors. So I would say, so there's not really such a big vintage watches community here. So it's more recent. So the collectors are also more recent when we talk about in numbers. So of course, GLC has its own following with its reversos. So it has an iconic history which starts with India. So I think that's any which way a strong story which is there. But I think other than that, Indians per se have some fascination with slightly bigger watches. Hublot Big Bang, though the watch community or collectors, they may feel that Hublot as a brand may not be, and they don't have that much respect for the movements. But in India, because of its design, it does amazingly well. It opens its first flagship boutique in India last year. Panerai, again, another big watches with another unique crown guard design and the sandwich dial does really amazingly well. I think it's one of in the last 2-3 years in its category, one of the best selling watches. They have already, I think, three boutiques in the country. So I think over here and all these brands somewhere that size does play a role here. And from collectors, then of course from the Rolex and everyone which is there, which works, they are very dependable watches. And honestly, they're one of the best tool watches when it comes to design, which are there to have. So those are any which the iconic watches which have been doing really well from the last 30-40 years, I would say. And I think let's get some other collector's opinion as well over here. So I think we have Deepak Tomar as well with us. So let's see, from a collector's point of view, what does he have to say? Yeah. Anyone else? Puneet?
I can't. I think he's disconnected. Is Deepak here? He was there.
I think we can have someone else.
Right. So Ronnie is I think a very good example of a design-based collector. So Ronnie, you can share your insights as to the design of Gege and also otherwise. Like, how do you look at watches from a design angle only? So, which is very new for someone like me, because I look at watches from a lot of other angles, including the mechanics of it, the machine it's working on, the movement, etc. So, what do you think about this concept?
Okay. Hi everyone. So for me, I think 90% of the watch for me is the design, and that sort of overrules the other sort of issues. Of course, what's inside does make a difference. I'm not going to look at a quartz watch, although the design may be fabulous and stuff. But the issue, I think, and what sort of irks me is I think a lot of the brands at the moment are restricted in terms of their creativity. And I know I have friends who are in the, maybe you can sort of add in from your experience, that who are in the design sort of part of working of these brands, and they just feel so stifled in that they're unable to express their creativity. And I think it's partly due to sort of commercial reasons, that the brands are unwilling to push the envelope and sort of go beyond their sort of comfort zone in terms of creativity. I think the cost of developing a particular design is so great that it's sort of, and then the risk of failure is another big sort of issue. And you spend vast amounts of money in terms of marketing a new release and stuff that you can't, you want to minimize the risk of failure. So that I find sort of one sort of element that's rather frustrating as someone who collects from a design perspective. And I think just generally, I mean, if you talk of examples, I mean, like Audemars Piguet, I think it's a single brand watch, primarily with the Royal Oak. I remember I was talking to Thierry Stern, I'm not sort of name dropping or anything, and I asked him, what do you think of the competition? And he just laughed. He said, what, a brand that has one sort of mono sort of inventory kind of thing, the Royal Oak. And he said, I'm not worried about them and stuff. And it's so through. And when they launched this recently, was it the Code 1130? I don't know even what it's called. It's such an ugly watch. And I remember someone asked me and someone went and printed it. And I got a phone call from the head of the heritage department. I think he'd be told, why did I pass a comment saying it's such an ugly watch? So I've been excommunicated from Audemars Piguet in terms of requests on information on historical issues and stuff because I opened my mouth. But and the poor journalist, she was threatened and I don't know what else and stuff. So they take things seriously. If you sort of go against the vein and express anything that's beyond, that you don't like it. But I think that sort of, and again, another sort of example of open. I mean, I've talked to a few brands. I've been working with Cartier, and unfortunately, they went through this period of, I think they were in the woods producing watches which were not true to the brand's DNA. I mean, they produced these great big watches. They're okay if you're a Russian drug dealer or something like that. But to the rest of us, they're big watches, 50 millimeter, and then they went into going into mechanical complication, which is fine. I've got no issue. But when you price position at a level of Patek Philippe, I don't think any collector is willing to pay that kind of money for a brand that's still, in the minds of many, associated to be a jewelry brand. You're not going to buy a high complicated watch for the great big price. It just doesn't gel. And that whole venture turned out to fail. And now you're seeing the return back to their heritage in producing time-only watches and stuff. But again, like if you go in for special requests, their thing is, oh, well, we can't do that. You can, and I've talked to Vacheron as well, to look at historic pieces, to reproduce them, or just do custom pieces. And the thing is, well, they don't want to look at their heritage and reproduce anything, but they said, well, if it contains, if it's an improvement of the past, yes, but they won't copy the past. But I don't understand that, because, if the past was a success and that was good, why can't you, and the demand is there from people who keep you in business, why would you not produce designs from the past? What is it that, what is this fear of not, why must it, there's a whole sort of reserved attitude in terms of of going to the past or even exploring something beyond the boundaries. That's really my sort of thing. I don't know, if that's, Ritika, you can sort of add in, I'm sure from your experience, how you were you able to let the creative juices flow, or did they sort of, besides changing the crown shape or the number of grooves in the crown, did they allow you to do anything,
So I was actually quite lucky because I was, the place where I was at, I got to be very creative. I was working very closely with the marketing and creation director. And because I was working so closely with him, I got the creative freedom to sort of, in fact, I will share my designs and you will agree, I hope you agree, that it is quite a creative design, very different from what JLC did before. But like you said, a lot of times these brands, when they're going back in the past, they're scared of failure, of course. Like for just in case of, just to take Reverso's example, right? Reverso, initially when it started, it failed, I think, in the 1940s, and they stopped producing it till, I think, 1970s or late 1970s or early 1980s. And I think one of the Italian retailers, or maybe people from Italy, had a lot of demand. That's when they reproduced it, and that is when the Reverso actually became the icon that it is today. Initially, when it was started for its utility, basically, it wasn't that well known. So I think a lot of times these brands, they are skeptical to go back in the past and redesign their old pieces, unless, there's a lot of requests coming in, maybe then they consider.
Sure.
So on the Audemars Piguet, Karishma, I'm going to come to you, you know that. So my point was that AP was always shot on the head for just having the Royal Oak kind of designs. And now when they came up with something different per se, and they tried to blast it all over the media and everything on whatever social media, but then a lot of criticism went through their way, right? So a lot of us collectors said that, what the hell are they doing? But at the same time, they wanted to try something new. So Karishma, what do you think about it?
So I kind of agree with what Ronnie said as well. There's certain brands that are just one design brands. Like if you think of Patek, well, it's the Nautilus. Very rarely you see the Aquanaut. If you think of Audemars Piguet,
I beg to differ on that one. I don't think Patek's a single brand. I mean, it's not known. It's not top. It's top of mind. If you said Patek Philippe, what springs to mind? Yes, perhaps Nautilus amongst the herd of the majority herd, but amongst collectors, I don't think it's known as just for Nautilus. I mean,
I think beyond collectors, if at least I'm talking from India perspective, if somebody wants to buy a Patek, the only watch that comes to mind or anyone talks about is the Nautilus. When it comes to Audemars Piguet, sorry?
Probably because it's got a big price premium and everyone's hoping,
yeah, it flips faster.
I'll double my money.
Yeah, it could flip a lot faster. But yeah, so I also, and so coming to Audemars Piguet, I've always been a fan. I've loved their watches, and no, I'm not trying to be diplomatic here. But when you think Audemars Piguet, or when I think Audemars Piguet, I think the Royal Oak or the Offshore. And of course, for the longest period, I also did like the millenaries that they did. I've never been a fan of the 1159. Of course, when it did come out, the question was, what are they doing and why are they doing it? So yeah, I don't kind of agree with, I don't like the collection at all, if you want my honest opinion. I don't see a reason for that introduction. For example, when the Odysseus was launched by Lange, I was also very questionable about that. And I didn't like that watch itself too. And the whole thought process was they're just doing a steel watch because they want to start sort of an entry-level watch. But I mean, I put that on my wrist and I tried it on, and it was a beautiful timepiece. So I think brands are conservative in the way that they do design, and they are restricted, particularly the commercial brands. I work a lot with the independent brands. There's no boundaries to what they can do. Of course, there is understandably a reason why commercial brands cannot go completely crazy with the watches that they create. But coming to the 1159, personally, I don't get it. I don't see the direction they want to go with that collection, and that's as polite as I can get about it.
Thank you. But going back to pick up, sorry, I'm sort of hogging the mic here, but going back to looking at your past, I think Audemars launched this new chronograph, which is based on a 1930s chronograph. I don't know if all of you have seen it, and I'm not a technical whiz to put it up now. But I mean, it's I think that's met with a very positive feedback. I mean, what they did is they took a lovely chronograph from the 30s. It was very small, I think 33 minutes, and they've made it 40. But again, where they dropped the ball, in my opinion, is they put an automatic movement in that. Why, you've gone all that way, why would you, well, anyway, I don't want to sort of spoil the party all the time, but I don't understand. But that's where you've looked at your past and picked up something which people are in awe of and reproduced it, and it's been a success, a commercial success. So maybe if people followed that model, if they don't want to be creative and be sort of blind to that part of it, at least look in the past if you have a heritage to talk of.
I think the 1159 is also one of the reasons commercial brands sort of fear crossing their boundaries and sort of, putting themselves out there in terms of creating something new, because that was a complete disaster in my opinion. And I will stop now.
Well, when I got that sort of nasty phone call, they said, well, the Royal Oak was a commercial failure initially and it picked up 3 years later. Well, I said, well, you can flog a dead horse and you can't gag me because you don't pay for anything. You don't pay my bills, but I'm entitled to say what I want to say. And I don't like it, and there are many others who don't. There may be people who like it as well. And, you've got to respect all the opinions, but you've got to call a spade if that's what the majority consensus is. That's just the way it is, I think.
It comes back to design, and that's how important design is when you buy a watch. So when, like I said, when you think Audemars Piguet, if you are buying your first Audemars Piguet, you're definitely going for a Royal Oak or for an Offshore. So it's not going to be an 1159 for sure.
That's what also comes in. It's a little subjective. So for collectors, it's it's Royal Oak, but as Ronnie also brand said, 3 years, 4 years down the line, it is a commercial brand at the end of the day. And when you see over the years, they might be. Personally, I don't hate the design, I don't love the design. But somewhere I think eventually we have to give it that space, because a lot of collectors may not, like, to give an example, Hublot. Again, people say it's a marketing brand, it's everything, it really sells. So I think that different aspects, yeah, from a...
Definitely, it's an opinion. It's a personal opinion, and this is purely my personal opinion about what I think about this watch. I have a lot of love and respect for AP. It's one of my favorite brands, but 1159, it's just a personal opinion.
It's horses for courses.
Most of the time, if I cut in, guys, it's not on the designers really. A lot of the times there's pressure coming in from the marketing teams. They're looking at markets, they're designing according to the markets. So you do not know for which market specific the design has been, designed. So well, they say design is subjective, but there might be a group of people somewhere in the world for whom this particular design is targeted at, and maybe they're liking it.
So my question to you is, do brands actually design collections as per the markets and as per countries?
Yes, they do. They do. In fact, let me share the design that I did for JLC. It was market specific, and I'll share the story behind it as well. Should I share it, guys? Yeah. I'll start sharing my screen. Just a minute.
I think Washeron had some Indian designs also, right? I mean, some elephant, or I don't know, something from...
Anita Khatri also here with us, so it's good to have her viewpoint also. She's been active on the chat. So Anita, over to you.
Hello. Hi. Hello. Good evening, everybody. And Romy, I don't know. I have to tell you just one thing, that I don't know who has called you. Audma Piguet would never, ever not welcome, appreciate any feedback, positive or negative. I'm sure that there has been some miscommunication. I would like to actually personally connect with you on that, on a separate note, other than this meet, to get really to understand what made you feel that Audma Piguet has not appreciated your point of view. When it comes to code 1159, it appears to be, actually it is a total marriage of technique. Since we are talking about design here, it is a total marriage of design and mechanical, technical movement. Because if you look at it closely, you will see that it is sandwiched between the 3 dials. There are 3 dials in the entire dial. It's not one single dial. And when you look at it, you will see from the side, it's a spherical and it's not round in shape. Now this, of course, the engineers who have constructed can explain and do justice. I do have a video which I can share with you all on a separate note, which can explain more, because I would not be able to do justice to the technical part of it. But yes, the moment, the way it is setted, where it's sitting between the 2 dials, how it is sitting, and how on the side, when the width of the dial, you can see it is spherical in nature, it's not round, which meets your eyes. And here we are always, Audma Piguet is trying to innovate and move on technical innovation, because they are having the maximum complications. Considering all of that, this was launched more from the point of view, yes, we have legend, which is millenary and Royal Oak. We should have something further, and that is how code 1159 was created. It has 2 views very clearly. Some people like it, some people just don't like it. People who like it are essentially the collectors of Audma Piguet. I had fans of Audma Piguet who want to add another round, another design, another shape, because it's a design, I'm specifying on that, another shape on the wrist coming from the house or the independent house of Audma Piguet. And that's why 1159 was launched and created with R&D, which went on for more than 5 to 7 years, only to construct the right design and marriage of mechanic along with the design. So that's what I would like to share on this particular platform for 1159. And if you have any other question, Vishesh.
No, I think it's good to have your viewpoint as well. But yeah, so
Cool. I think Vritti, thank you, Anita, for your interesting opinion. We can move on to there's a short presentation I think Vritti has in terms of design. We were discussing about how designs are related to even certain target audiences, if I'm not mistaken, Vritti. So, but apart from that, you can continue.
Guys, can you see my screen?
yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll quickly share the design I did and that was launched. And then I'll quickly share the other presentation as well. So I think for all those who know about the Jajel Kutra tagline, it did open a whole new world for me. For others, it was a very popular tagline they did. These are some of this is the way we do the form development, the initial sketches and all of that. We ideate a lot. So this was back in 2015 when we were, these are scribbles from some of my times there. We were ideating the new Master Ultra line has been launched now. So these are just scribbles and it usually takes good 4 to 5 years from the concept stage to the final product stage. So, all right. Most of the times it's, this is a for nothing too special about it. Just the minute details here. The color is orange on the threads in the stitch. This one was special to me. This was one of the Mithya Dara pieces. This was the brief that was given to me was we are targeting the Asians. B, use any animal. Now, when you say use any animal, if you go in the archives of what Jajel does, they have done a lot of paintings, old paintings. They've done a lot of nude women. If you've seen their Mithya Dara pieces, they've done a couple of animals, but during that time, a lot of brands were doing a lot of animals. And there was a sort of monotony in the way they were doing the Mithya Dara or the Mithya Dara art pieces. When I was given this brief, it is a process of a whole lot of research, right? And I was told to design for the Asian market. So in China, they celebrate Qixi. Qixi is the Chinese Valentine's Day. And there's a tale that goes with Qixi. There are two magpies it's a mythological tale. These two magpie birds, they've separated, and on the 7th day of this 7th month, these two magpies meet. And we'd taken that concept and used that in the watch. These were the initial designs that we did. On the left, if you can see, the initial idea was to have two watches, one male's watch and one female watch, one with two birds apart and the other one in which these birds are meeting. After a lot of rework, the final watch that we did come up with was the Rendezvous Sonatina Seduction. It was launched in 2017. The magpies are here. It was done on the Rendezvous watch. I don't know if you've seen most of the Mithyadhara pieces that Jaeger has done. This was quite different from the rest of their language. It did have a different taste to it. These were a series of 3 watches, and in fact they were quite successful. Out of 18, I think 15 have sold globally. They were limited edition pieces.
So these were for China, you said, right?
I mean, not for China per se, but yes, when we were given the brief, we had to design looking at the Asian markets because the demand is coming from there. So you have to keep the markets in mind at the back of your head. Yeah.
3 more remaining, right?
I don't have the picture here.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, these were some of the explorations we did. So aventurine, so basically the Audemars Piguet 1159 has used aventurine. Aventurine has also something that had that was something that's sort of been trending, and a lot of these brands they sort of pick up trends from what the other brands do. So a lot of brands had been doing aventurine dials, and because it becomes a trend, a lot of these other brands want to take it up and sort of use it because they've seen other brands be successful with it. So a lot of time it's mix and match of, you know, things, and sometimes it's successful for some and not successful for others. So aventurine dials have been successful in the past for other brands. It could be one of the reasons why AP has used it in their design.
It's interesting to know how design that at times brands do design specific pieces for different markets or keeping them in mind. So thank you for sharing this.
And these are some of my sketches. This was one of my hand painted pieces. I think I've shared it on Instagram also. There's not much that I'm allowed to share. I think Devesh would agree to that. I've already shared enough.
I'm biting my nails right now.
But yes, this was, I mean, I was given these files because I could have used them in my portfolio. So I think I am allowed to share these. And apart from that, I did create a small presentation, guys. If you all agree, we were going to discuss a couple of design icons. So if you all are up for it, should I share the presentation, or Vishesh, do you want to talk about something and then do the other presentation?
First, I think it will be good to, that will be an interesting conversation. Let's share those designs.
Sure. Just a minute. So, our topic was supposed to revolve around design icons. And here I am with my presentation. Just a minute. Yeah. So we all know a couple of icons that were designed by Gerald Genta, the Royal Oak, the Patek Philippe Nautilus. The Royal Oak was inspired by a diver wearing a helmet, which was attached to his suit by 8 screws. And so these 8 screws on the bezel that you see, that's how they came to his mind. A lot of times, it's a design process. I don't know if this is what Genta followed, but it's called form development. And it's a basic rule that when you have a square, say a square, you kind of soften it and you go on softening it. So if you keep softening the edges of the square, you get a circle. So when maybe Genta was doing it, that's what he did when he did the Nautilus. He was at the Basel World Fair. Apparently, he came up with his design in 5 minutes. So maybe in his mind, he just softened the royal oak to come up with a softer form, which is now the Nautilus. This Nautilus was, in fact, designed on a paper napkin, like how most startup ideas these days come up, maybe, which is why it was a success.
And also surprisingly, both those watches are also two of the most comfortable watches to wear on the wrist. You can wear them the entire day and without really getting to know about it.
I'm going to add to that. The other Genta designs, well-known designs, are the Bulgari. Later on, the Bulgari became really popular and was incorporated in jewelry as well. It was inspired by an inscription on a Roman coin. The IWC Ingenieur, I was lucky to do a redesign too. I don't know if it was incorporated. While I was at the Creative Academy, we were trying to redesign the Ingenieur. I don't know whose design got selected, but we did work on it too. But Genta also redesigned it, and one of his trademarks or USPs, we'd say, he tries to do the screws on the bezel. In fact, Santos, which is not a Genta design, also has screws on the bezel. It's very Genta-ish, but it's not a Genta design. Again, one of the icons, which is not a Genta design, one of the icons that remain is an icon is the Calatrava. It is one of those understated design, came, I mean, one of the first dress watches. And I want to add, like, if you see the Calatrava or the Patrimony or the Master, the Jaeger Master, you'd see a lot of similarities. A lot of times people say that, you know, this brand copied that brand, but when it's a dress watch, it's a dress watch. There's not much you can do, right? The design codes for whichever brand will be the same. You will see minute differences, but a dress watch will remain a dress watch. But one of the Calatrava did come up with the Clou de Paris bezel, which was one of those bezels that sort of it stands out, and is Calatrava is known for its Clou de Paris bezel. Clou de Paris is the texture that was also used on the word to mobile phones, if you guys can recollect it.
Okay.
Another icon we all know is the Reverso. The Reverso was designed because one of the brand associates visited India, and it was during the British rule that they were facing this, the British were facing problem while playing polo, and they were getting scratches on their watches. So that's when the Reverso came to being, when it's a patented design and you can flip it over. And of course, the Rolex Oyster Perpetual is one of the icons that remain. Probably one of the most, I think, sold majorly in India, liked by many, if not liked, bought by many because of it being Rolex. So a lot of times people buy Rolex because of it being Rolex. I wanted to speak a little about its design, and that it does have a lot of design elements to it. It has form and it has functionality. Interestingly enough, the name Oyster it came to being because it's difficult to open an oyster, right? So I don't know if it's a myth or a fact, but Hans Wilsdorf, he was having troubles opening an oyster, so that's how he came up with the name. It's a hermetically sealed case of an oyster. I have an oyster here in my hand. The fluted bezel is what you all can see in the slide 2. The winding crown and case back. The case back also is fluted. It is one of the things that have remained from the early 1920s. If you see, the bezel was fluted back then. It is fluted now. There were a couple of design changes. It was a larger case, a more geometrical case. In fact, the story is that I think it was this woman, a swimmer called, actually Hans Wilsdorf was quite a marketeer. So when he did come up with the oyster, he presented it to this swimmer called Mercedes Glides, I think. And she crossed the English Channel in, I think, 15 hours or 13 hours wearing the oyster. She did it twice. The first time, a goof up happened because somebody else claimed to swim the channel in like 13 hours or so. So she re-swam the channel wearing the oyster, and I think she was wearing the gold oyster, but she wore it on her, she didn't wear it on her wrist, she tied it around on her neck. And that's when the oyster sort of lived up to its name, that it's waterproof, it's airtight, and no matter what you do, it will remain waterproof. So that was the idea of an oyster being an oyster. Now it's become a very well-known icon. It's become, it's one of those watches that probably a lot of Indians buy because of just the name Rolex. Of course, there have I'm sure Ronnie will have quite a take on it. But it has gone through a couple of variations. The Jubilee bracelet was introduced. Then, of course, the oyster bracelet, the oyster perpetual milgauss came up. The lady date just, the sea dweller. You know, the changes kept happening, and well, this is quite, I don't know how latest it is, but it's probably a couple of years old, maybe 5 or 6 years old, but this is what we see a Rolex oyster today. And like you mentioned, Vishesh, a lot of times these watches sit very well on your wrist, and we always credit the designer, but it's not just the designer, right? Or not just Gerald Genta who made Royal Oak, or who made the Nautilus. There was a supplier, also a designer, Gay Freres. He was known for making bracelets. He also made a lot of jewelry bracelets, but he did a lot of bracelets at that time for Rolex, for Patek, for Vacheron. And I've shared a couple of pictures of his iconic bracelets. The Bon Clip bracelet was one of his designs that he supplied to a lot of watch maisons during that time, even to Rolex, although only a couple of Rolexes used it. Another of his, one of his famous designs was the oyster bracelet that was initially supplied by Gay Freres and eventually patented by Rolex. The beads of rice bracelet that has been used by both Patek and Vacheron. The Royal Oak bracelet, like you said, the Royal Oak sits very well. Well, the bracelet of the Royal Oak has to be attributed, the success of it has to be attributed to Gay Freres because of his design and inputs and development, because the designer can only put the design on paper. A lot of times it's the technicians, the suppliers, they all work together, they all work collaboratively to make the piece come to life. I mean, there are a lot of people behind one watch, and of course, names never come out, but a watch becomes a watch because of many great people, and Gay Freres was one of those. And then one of his other popular bracelets was the ladder bracelet. It was used on the Zenith El Primero. Eventually, Gay Freres has been taken over by Rolex now. Yes.
Like the only difference from then to now, like in 70s and or 50s to 70s, all these watch brands used to reach out to a lot of specialists to get their bracelets, movement, or various parts of the watch done. But now it's the opposite. They want everything in-house. So honestly, I think some of the iconic designs from that time are still there because it maybe went out to the specialists and who really did their job well.
Yes.
So I think that's people can have a different take on it, but I think that was a better approach maybe then.
I think if Ronnie has to add, I'm sure Ronnie will have quite an interesting take on what he thinks of bracelets.
First of all, I want to thank you for a lovely presentation and stuff. Great job. And the designs you did are awesome, really. Thank you so much for sharing them, Riti. It's really great to see. And to know someone who's actually done amazing work like that, that's even, you know, I'm honored and stuff. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Ronnie.
In terms of bracelet, unfortunately, I'm not a bracelet fan, so I don't know. But amongst collectors, I know a lot of my friends, vintage collectors. The bracelets are extremely sought out after the Grey Frere bracelets that were produced in the 50s and stuff. There's one guy actually in Spain who's become the specialist of copying vintage bracelets, and these go for the value of a expensive watch actually now. It's crazy. But yeah, if you're a bracelet fan, I guess horses to courses, like watches themselves, I guess. Thank you.
And I'll just finish up with a couple of design inspirations that a couple of brands have taken from, like, for example, the tank. The tank was actually inspired by a war tank. And if you can see, I've put in this slide a tank in itself, and you can see the shape of the tank wheels, if I can call them wheels. From the top view, they look like how the tank face looks now. So a lot of times, a lot of these brands do take literal inspirations. One of the, then the Ballon Bleu, the name comes, the word ballon means a hot air balloon. And if you actually see it in an angle, you can actually see a balloon when you see the ballon dial, which on a regular day you wouldn't see it, but I'm sure with a balloon's picture right next to it, you may be able to visualize a balloon. Then this watch, the Baignoire, it's actually the bathtub. It means the bathtub in French, and it's the literal top view of a bathtub. And the case is actually that of a bathtub. A lot of, like I said, a lot of these case developments that used to happen back then do not happen. You do not see them happen now, even though a couple of maisons do work really hard on it, like Cartier does. Like, for example, the Crash. The Crash is, I think, it was this watch that I think somebody met with an accident, and this watch was deformed and became a Crash. Or Drive the Cartier, I think even that is a new case in itself. But it's comparatively less now that you see brands working on case designs. But what I also want to emphasize, especially on this particular watch, is when you see the numbers here, a lot of times you think they're just numbers, but the way the designers have to play with the spacing, the negative spacing, the way they have to squeeze in, if you can say squeezing them in a particular shape, that's also a lot of work. Sometimes they come up with their own fonts. Sometimes they, of course, use either Roman or Arabic, but the way they play with the negative space is also quite a difficult task. Yeah. I think, yeah, that's about it, guys. My presentation ends here.
Thanks, Vritti. That was really fantastic. A lot of information on there, even I had no idea about. So it was really well put together.
Glad you guys liked it.
Thank you, Vritti.
Thanks, Vritti. It was amazing. We've already got so many chat pop-ups saying that it was an amazing presentation, and I speak for all of them. And yeah, very insightful. So now, just a second. Yeah. So cool. Guys, it's already 7:10. I think we are already past the planned schedule time, although we have a small activity right now. If you guys are okay with it, we can go for it. Or we can even do it next time. What do you guys think? Because it's a little late. Unanimous vote? Yes.
I'm gonna have to leave, so
Okay.
I'll leave you guys to it.
Others, everyone, like, are you guys okay to sit here for another 10 minutes? I think 10 minutes we should wrap it up. Perfect, cool. So I think I've got a thumbs up from many people, and the guys who are not answering are going to be there, so it's all right. Right. So thank you very much, Vishesh and Vritti, and everyone who participated. It was amazing. Unfortunately, all of us couldn't participate because of the limitations of this platform. But I think all of us are going to leave with a lot of good knowledge about designs and probably look at watches and gesture in a very different way. So now moving on, we've learned a lot about designs, but let's see if we've actually learned a lot about designs, or like me, you were just having way too many beers to kind of understand what is going on. So there is a small quiz which we have created for you guys, which Vijaya and Ahan are going to take us through. And it's a small, very short 10-minute quiz. At the end of it, like any other competition, we have some gifts, and I'll just throw what we have for you guys on the screen. So maybe you guys can see it. Just a second. So yes. So yeah, so we have the Cartier's, the book, and we are trying to get Francesca Cartier-Breckel to sign it for us. Although because of COVID, there's some communication issue with, but we might get her to sign it for us. And we have a very nice watch roll from Vishawatch, which is your prize if you happen to win the competition. And it's a small quiz. And Vijaya will take you through all the rules and regulations, and then we can get going. Right, Vijaya, over to you.
Sure, great. So quickly, just to take you guys through the rules, it's a multiple option quiz. Like there'll be ABCD answers. You have to just pick the right answer. It's a mix of visual questions and a couple of text questions. So I'll do the voiceover while the quiz is running. Nidhi will share the slides of the quiz, the questions. And the answer, the way to answer is, you guys, every participant has to send the right answer to Ahan. Ahan is one of the participants here, in private chat. This is the only important piece of information in terms of rules. Please send your answers. So if it's question number 1, write 1 and ABCD, whatever is the right answer. 2, ABCD, 3. So please remember to put the question number. We're experimenting with this format for the first time. We have tried to figure it out that hopefully it all goes seamlessly. And so, yes, if you keep that in mind. So we'll keep each slide for about, say, 10 seconds or so. Try and be as fast as possible. People who are sleeping, not interested, please wake up. It might be an interesting activity. So let's go ahead, guys. Nidhi, are we good to go? Yes, of course. Let me just play some music.
Okay.
Is it good? So you guys have to identify which watch from the movie Doctor Strange is pictured here. Okay, Rolex Daytona, Jaeger-LeCoultre, Carlos Bocaro, Monero, or Omega Speedmaster. So the right answer has to go to Ahan in a private window with the question number and the right answer, guys. There are about 36 people here in the Zoom, so hopefully we get everybody going. Am I audible? Can somebody just give me the thumbs up? Okay, cool. Thank you.
And once you're done, you can let us know whether you've received a few of those answers.
Yes, Ahan, please give a go ahead in some way so that we can move on to the right answer. There'll be 10 questions, guys. And if there is a tie, we have a bonus question too. So let's see what happens here.
Do we move ahead?
I think let's move ahead. About 10 seconds is the average time. We're going to stop per slide, okay?
Okay, so here goes the answer.
Okay, so of course, the brand in spotlight today, that's the right answer. Moving on to question 2. So you have to reply 1B. That's the format to send your correct answers to. Yes, maybe let's move on. Cool, you have to identify this, the design. Guess the watch. Is it a Bulova Royal Oak, Audemars Piguet Royal Oak? Is it Maurice Lacroix, or is it Bond & Mercier? So, question 2, ABCD. And your right answer.
Ahan is not in. I cannot send a message to Ahan.
Okay,
I can repeat
Guys,
the message.
no worries, send it to me. Send it to me, Puneet.
No, but
send
I
it
can
to
repeat the
Puneet or
message.
Ahan. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Send it to me. I'll record it.
But just send it. The only reason we're saying private chat is so that your right answer is not copied by the rest. That's the only logic here.
Do we have the answers, Ahan?
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah, we can go to the next one.
Next slide. The correct answer is,
The answer first.
of course, the iconic, the one and only. Moving on to question 3. Guess the watch brand. This is the zoomed in focus shot of the dial. Is it lip watches? Is it electrician? Or is it Resels or HYT?
All right, guys, time is up.
Okay, moving on. That's the correct answer, D, Resels. Known for, again, industrial designs and founded by an industrial designer called Benoit. So it's really interesting in terms of the brand story. Moving on. Okay. This designer is very popular amongst vintage collectors owing to his distinct asymmetric silhouettes and bold shapes. He is accredited with introducing triangular and even asymmetrical models for one of the holy trinity of the watch world. So you have to guess the designer's name and the watch and the brand, basically. And the options are Philippe Dufour, Patek, Emmanuel Gouet for Audemars Piguet, Gilbert Elbert for Patek again, and Martin Frey for Vacheron. This could be a little tricky one, so read your options carefully.
All right, guys, we're giving you 5 more seconds. All right, time is up. Let's move on.
Right answer, coming ahead. All right, that's Mr. Gilbert Elbert for, again, one of the iconic brands, Patek Philippe. Moving on to question 5. You have to guess the brand, just feature the piece. And again, one of the art collections, something of design, Vacheron, Cartier, Digital Fruit, or Patek Philippe. And if you want any cues, you see a dog there, so taking a cue from our earlier conversations and discussions about the region. Answers would be on Q, ABCD.
Let's move on to the answer now. Time is up.
So that's Vacheron. And repeat it again. There's a description to the story. What piece is that? Yeah. That's the legend of the Chinese zodiac, year of the dog. Next question. What was the first waterproof wristwatch? Which one was the first waterproof wristwatch? Rolex, Oyster Perpetual, Omega Marine, Fortis Aquatic, or Tawan's Watch Company's Submarine?
Guys, that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one.
Just the music is coming up. This is for questions, guys. It's not over yet.
That's this or this. You have to say one answer. Like give one answer. You can't give multiple answers.
Yeah, just one answer.
Yeah, I hope nobody's
Are people
anything
giving
on the
two
side.
answers?
Got it? Do we have it?
Yeah, let's move
Yeah,
on.
guys, five more seconds.
Five
Let's
more
give you 5 more
seconds.
seconds.
Yeah, I hope nobody's
All right,
doing
let's
things
move
on
on
the
to the
side.
answer.
That's the submarine watch. Waterproof by Tawan's Watch Company. Great. Guess this watch. Is it the Fortis Aviation Square Chrono, Tiger and Monaco, Tissot, T-Trend, Quadrato, or a Seiko? This is a zoomed in shot, as you can see, of the dial. So.
That's an easy one, guys. Going ahead.
Go ahead, let's go ahead. Moving on.
Do I?
Yeah, we can move on.
That's what it is. Tag Heuer's Monaco. One of the iconic devices.
Okay.
Moving on. In 1998, at Baselworld, this French-born watchmaker presented a retro-futuristic wristwatch designed by Jeff Barnes, an industrial designer. It is widely considered to be the first watch to experiment with an entirely new form, combining avant-garde design with classic movements. Who is the watchmaker and what is the watch he designed? So it's a combination of two names, okay? Yeah. It's Felix Baumgartner, Gruber Force, Maximilian Buzzer for Legacy Machine, or Vianney Alter for Antiqua. Entirely new form. I think that's one of the cues here.
Okay, guys, you got 10 more seconds to answer. All right, time is up.
Moving on. So yes, that's the man. Yanni Halter. You pronounce it right in French. V and H are silent, I guess, and that's the watch. Antiques. Great. Moving on to question 9. Again, you have to guess this brand. Is it Lange, Patek, Classic, or Laura Perry?
Guys,
We're giving you 10 more seconds. Whoever hasn't answered, quickly answer. All right, let's move on to the answer now.
Okay, great. And coming up with the last question.
A lot of people got that wrong.
Who is the person? Who is this person? The picture that you're seeing, is it Philippe Dufour, Gerard Genta, George Daniels, or Curry Butilani? Sorry. He's the watch designer, of course. Which one of these 4 is the person you see?
Okay, guys, 5 more seconds to answer.
So this is basically the final countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we come to the end of the quiz. Thank you everyone for participating. This is Philippe Dufour. Okay, this time. Puneet, what do we do with the bonus question later on? Only once we know, right?
I think let's ask it because
let's just take it. Yeah.
Let's take it then.
Yeah.
Guess the watch that Keanu Reeves wore in the film John Wick 3. Answer will be in the next click. Yeah. Tudor Black Bay, Visual Scarlett Booker, Valero, or Rolex Cellular Time.
This will just be the tiebreaker question.
Yeah.
All right, guys, 5 more seconds and we're done.
Done.
Okay.
All right, and the answer is Carla Cooper's Monero Autodate. That's it. With this we wrap it up. Thank you so much, everyone. Over to you, Puneet.
Right. Super. There were certain questions which were very interesting. So I think not everyone got everything right. Although there are a lot of experts here. But let's see. Ahan, you need some time to check it out.
Yeah.
All right. No worries.
I'll require some time to collate everything.
Right. Cool. So in the meantime, we didn't get the time to talk to Sarosh. Sarosh, hi Sarosh.
Hi Puneet, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. You've been really quiet. I said, what's happening?
Yeah, because I guess I'm getting to learn from you guys now. So it's best to sort of let another viewpoint come in.
Yeah.
It's always good to absorb fresh ideas, different perspectives. So always happy. I mean, interesting Sunday evening.
Anush, but it will be good you are here with us. It will be good to have your viewpoint also. So because you deal with a lot of collectors or people with watches. So in your viewpoint, when you say when it comes to India or Indian consumers, since you deal with them quite a lot, where do you feel the aspect of design fitting in? Is it do you think it's all about the bigger pieces, or it's also about only about the brand, or what are the really things? It's good to have your take because you have a very different perspective because you deal with them even from the after sales service point of view.
Well, see, if we are discussing design right now, okay, a lot many people, especially, are judging watches, whether they are collectors, whether they are just coming into watches. A lot many things are seen, first of all, at least by the Indian buyer or the collector, is primarily the name. If those people aside, then you have the absolute people who go really eccentric on the movements. Like, you know, they would just talk about manufacture movements only, not considering the fact that a lot many of the watch brands who use third-party movements into their watches are probably not up there, so to speak. So, I mean, necessarily nobody actually talks about the finer and elegant points of design. If you just look at the if you look at the Grand Lange 1 dial, for example, okay, it's one of the most intricately designed dials, okay, that I have seen, which sort of people don't realize as much, to saying that when you have an off-centered component, okay, in your watch, putting it together, making it most appealing is a tremendous amount of challenge. Like if you see the angles between the central axis of the hands to the dates to the moon phase, it actually sort of forms into a triangulation. And if you further delve into the mathematics of that particular design, it actually dwells upon the golden ratio. So a lot many people don't realize it. Sometimes the most simplest of the dials can be actually the most difficult to manufacture, to design, to find appeal with, you know, with people. So in terms of design, I think we have a lot more to learn. I think the forum that BWE and you have put together today, Vritti again giving her inputs on the same. I think that needs to be dwelled into a more detailed discussion for people who would be interested in, you know, coming back to the platform, learning. Sometimes even the smallest things like a functional crown, okay, a lot many times you do have crowns that are so sharp that, you know, I mean, forget about the women's fingernails. Men also land up chipping them because they're not very, they're not very attuned to the ergonomics of the use as per se. So while design and designers innovate on something different, I think the pure ergonomics of something which is so close to your wrist, at least 8 hours a day minimum, should never be ignored. So design is an extremely challenging proposition. It's not as easy as it sounds, because I mean, and sometimes the most simplest of the things that sort of sometimes usually I've seen some people dismiss it. Arey, ye to Titan jaisa dikhta hai. You know what I mean? But the aspect is it's really difficult sometimes to produce the most easiest of things. Like, I mean, today call me a traditionalist guy. People swear by Risha meal, but I think if I had the ability of buying a Risha meal, I would employ somebody just next to me so that they could tell me the time, because I find their dials extremely illegible, you know. So while you have the topmost of the things selling at the most expensive proposition, I certainly don't find them practical and palatable. But yeah, I mean, that's my take. And I think the brand most under the radar ever in the world of watchmaking is Cartier to me, because I think over the century they've produced the most iconic designs, which I don't think collectively no other watch brand on the planet has been able to do so, and producing success. So whether it be from the Santoses to the recent Ballon Blues, the Drive, the Asymmetric, I mean, the list is endless. The Crash, for example, they've done the most iconic designs, which people actually have not got the chance to discover. And I mean, if at all you sort of, redo a forum like this, next month, maybe delving more deeper into design, then I think a lot many people would start sort of paying more focus to the detail rather than just the name.
Yeah, I think today we have just managed to scratch the surface on the subject of design. So
Absolutely. I mean, watches as a tradition has been ever evolving and ever dynamic. But again, the eras that sort of have transpired, from the absolute Art Deco that we saw in designs from Jaeger, for example, to the time when the era where Piaget was predominantly strong on the ultra thins as well as the stone dials. I mean, to manufacture a stone dial in a case where it has to be so thin that you're actually going to be maybe a millimeter up or down, you could actually compromise the integrity of the dial. So these are not easy things. It's just that they haven't been highlighted enough amongst the fraternity of people to sort of understand the delicate intricacies of the same.
But I think, as you said, Art Deco. Art Deco was also very some of the iconic designs from 50s and 70s. Like I would say, Ronnie's collection. His collection is a lot of Art Deco designs which he has, which are, I think, the watches are from 50s to 70s, when it was also the Art Deco time. I think designs also somewhere is also a clear role at what is happening, is a reflection of what is happening in the world at that time. And I think which is a period of 20-25 years, I would say. So roughly, and then some inspirations come from that time, which eventually we feel when we look at it after 60-70 years, that was the revolution, that was the movement going on at that time. Hence, 30s, 40s watches or 50s to 70s will differ from 80s and 90s. And roughly you will put it 20-25 years.
Yeah.
So, and
I was listening to him when he said that, when AP did that whole redux, I mean, why did they go ahead and put the automatic in it? Why didn't they sort of leave it to the manual? But I think a lot many people, unless and until they don't are not in love with their watches. Like, I mean, I know of certain individuals who would like sort of, pay more attention to their watches than their children. I mean, I don't necessarily say it's a good thing, but I think those are the guys who would actually enjoy the aspect of getting up, winding their watches, babying them, while their wives and children fret around in the background. But brands increasingly are finding it difficult to satisfy a collective taste, in a matter to speak. So I guess if you have to sort of do a complete redux of an absolute retro aspect coming in, I don't think movement finishing, which is actually being spoken about a lot nowadays with the manufacture movements, I think that would disappear. Watches were pretty much utilitarian, in the 40s, 50s, even till the 60s. It was worn by people mainly for a part of a function. Today, the society has evolved. It's more about a belonging. It's more about prestige. It's more about peer groups. So the whole dynamic of the industry has changed, and hence you need to understand certain superlative aspects will always be more predominant in a consumer's point of view, rather than the functionality that we talk of right now. And hence a lot many stories of tradition, a lot many finish and aspects on the movement. Well, and I think to a certain extent that has also stopped the evolution of watches per se. So अगर ये चल रहा है तो उसको ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा चलाओ. You know, that's you maximize your potential.
It will also be a good example of that. They make some of the really best tool watches in the world, but in how many years do you really see those designs evolving? Or each year, how much of involvement is there in a design? So,
see, it's not about that. I think people need to be proud of their acquisition, whether you own a HMT or whether you own a Patek Philippe. First of all, not many people are as confident about it is because of the fact that I think somewhere down the line, as I said, it's more about the optics rather than the actual love for a timepiece. So I guess unless and until that doesn't change, you will not find a brand who has to sustain a business at the end of the day try and take an unnecessary risk per se. You know what I mean?
yeah, I agree with you on there.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, it's these are frivolities which will always have a lot of opinions.
And I think we should have the results also now.
Yeah. Do we have the results, Ahan, the scorekeeper?
Yeah. So we have the results. The highest score is Miss Anita Khatri.
Ooh.
She has got the highest score. And for second, we have a tie between Abhishek Mehra and Fennel Parekh.
Super.
Congratulations to all the winners. Puneet, you can take it forward.
Thank you so much. Congratulations, guys. And Anita was no surprise. I mean, she has been a watch expert. So, yeah. But I think a lot of a close deal, right, Ahan? That's what you messaged me right now. It's very close. That's why it took.
Yeah.
So a lot of people got right answers. But I think the questions were a little difficult. Some of them were, right? So what do you guys think? So cool. I think we are way over time. It's already 7:40.
7:40. Usually it's a 1 hour session, Puneet.
Sorry?
Usually it's a 1 hour session.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a 1 hour session, but we always cross that line because it's just watches. So everyone just keeps on like talking. We love it, right? And no one really minds.
It's never been 1 hour.
Quite an oxymoron to the precision aspect of it, right?
Quite an
when talking watches.
Yeah. But thank you guys. Thanks Vishesh and Vishawatch. Thank you for being there. It was amazing to have you guys. It was really good fun. And Vritti, thanks for your insights, your presentation. And I hope you don't get any flack from JLC for sharing so much information. And,
I know. I hope it. I didn't speak too much, but.
No, but we had the country manager here, so I mean, it's fine. So anyways, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for all your inputs. Thanks, Ronnie, Sarosh, Anita, Karishma has just left. So thanks every one of you experts and everyone else on this platform right now. A lot of people have left, obviously, because of the time which we always cross. But thank you everyone. And it was amazing to see you guys. So this was the first thing which we did with Wrist Talks with BWE. We hope to continue this in the coming weeks, and hopefully we all get freed from the COVID lockdown right now and we get a solution to all the bigger issues in life. But until then, I think this is a good way to kind of de-stress ourselves. And Vishesh, thank you so much. Last words from you.
Thank you guys. See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
I think all of us are all BWE guys right now. I'm going to stop the recording, but I think it was amazing, right, Vijay? What do you think?
I think so. It is fun. Yeah. It is.